Hi Stampers, I'm Anna Helman. I'm glad you're here today. Today I want to share a card with you that is full of techniques and beautiful colors and textures and layers, and I hope you will watch along with me. Let's get started. The card we're going to be making is perfect for fall, but the techniques and tips I'll share you can use for any occasion all throughout the year. Now here are a few of the pieces I've created that will end up on our finished card. I created these with the gathered wheat stamp set and the coordinating wheat dies. And this is a set I am just really having a lot of fun with. Here's a really simple card I made with this set. And the card we're going to make during this video will definitely be stepped up from this one. We are going to start by creating one of our layers, and as this comes together you'll see all the pieces and parts. This is going to be one of our layers, and I am using this corner punch to punch the corners of all of the layers of the card, or at least the card base and the couple of layers on top of it. So I'll get these punched. And now what I want to do with this is a little bit of watercoloring. Grab my largest water painter. This is a tool I really like to use often, which you probably know if you watch along very much. Now I have my soft suede ink, and I'm going to ink up this block, lay it upside down, and squeeze some water out of my water painter onto that block and do some mixing. Now, typically when I'm using my water painters, I prefer to use watercolor paper or my shimmery white cardstock, but I wanted vanilla on this card. So we are making do with just regular vanilla cardstock. And I am just going to make a messy background here, back and forth. There really is no right or wrong way to do this. If you get your color dark and you want it to be lighter, you can add a little bit of water and try to move that around some. This works a little bit better with the shimmery white and with the watercolor paper, but like I said, we can make do with this. Now, is this my favorite watercolor background ever? It is not, but don't worry, we are putting lots of things on top of this. So if you try this and it's not your favorite, keep in mind there will be lots of things to go over top. I'll set this aside to dry for a few minutes, and we are going to make another fun creation here. I'm going to bring in some shimmery white embossing paste, one of my palette knives, and some gilded leafing. This is a product you can use in several different ways. The most basic way to explain how you can use this is to put adhesive of any sort on a project and then apply this over the top, and this will cling to the adhesive. I made a video of lots and lots of ways to use this gilded leafing. If you are interested in details, I will put the link down in the video description below. You can take a look at that. Now what I'm going to do here, I discovered recently that you can apply this shimmery embossing paste over top of, well, pretty much anything, but that it is somewhat translucent. So for example, this pumpkin right here, it was pumpkin pie cardstock. I stamped it with Cajun Craze ink, and then I applied this paste over top. I really loved how this turned out. So we are taking this a step further here, and we are going to mix some gilded leafing in before we apply it over a couple of stalks of the wheat. When you work with gilded leafing, I really encourage you to use care around it. If you have like a draft, a fan on or a window open or anything like that, I would encourage you to shut your window, turn the fan off. It is so light and delicate, it will blow around. So I'm going to mix this in. Now I could have shredded that up a little bit, but I think as I mix this in, it's going to do what I want to do. It's going to break up into smaller pieces. And I think this creates for a really neat effect. Now, if I want to, I can kind of chop up those pieces with my knife. I almost feel like I'm cooking. I think in my next life, I might want to do cooking demonstrations. I love to cook. I don't know if you know that about me. Okay. Now bring in, am I allowed to make the joke that my kitchen's usually as messy as my craft room? There's my humor for the day. Okay. What I'm going to do is just smear this lightly over these wheat die cuts. So you'll still be able to see the stamped image somewhat, but it is a little bit muted, a little bit covered up by the shimmer and the gold flecks. Anytime you use embossing paste, you want to make sure to do your cleanup quickly. So I am going to take a quick break and clean this up before we go any further. I'll show you how I like to clean up my embossing paste, and it's with a baby wipe. Now, I am very much anti-cleaning stamps with a baby wipe. I've had a lot of different issues happen with getting the fibers on my ink pads, and fibers stick to the stamps, and then my stamps don't stamp right. And that is something I just don't really like dealing with. So I don't clean my stamps with baby wipes, but I keep them in my craft room for situations like this where we have some mess and I need to clean it up and get rid of it. So this is a perfect example of when I do use them. So I put this in my trash can. I may have some glitter on my hands until I clean up, but that's okay. I do want to lift these off of here before they start to dry too much, because I do not want them to be stuck down to the paper once they are dry. Okay, I'm going to set these aside and let them dry, and we are going to bring back in that background we worked on. I wanted to add some splatters with my water painter. It does create a little bit of a mess though. So this stamp set, the Gathered Wheat stamp set, includes this splatter stamp. So we're gonna do some splatters the easy way. I'm not sure if I want them that dark, so I am going to stamp off and then I will do some a little bit darker. So these can go wherever. I don't really want them to be too regular looking. So we got a few splatters. Now, this should be fun. What I'm going to show you, I haven't done with a piece of cardstock this large before, but I think I can make it work. What I'm going to do is crumple it up. I'm going to have to do this several times. Do want to be careful not to tear it at the edges. That can happen depending on if a piece gets caught and you're trying to crumple it and it doesn't want to turn the way you're pushing or pulling on it. So as you do this, it is really going to start to loosen up and soften a bit. Now, after it starts to get soft, what you want to do is grab one of the edges and pull. And what you should be able to do is pull this apart into 2 layers. As you do this, of course, be careful that if it starts to tear, you may need to crumple it up a little bit more, soften it a bit. And maybe you could start at another edge and work back towards the center. There, mine started to tear a little bit at the edge. Here, looks like I got it tore there at the edge as well when I was crumpling, which is okay as long as I don't get too big of a tear. So we'll tear this in half, and what we're left with is something a little bit that seems a little bit like fabric, really. It's just this really soft, delicate piece that is going to make a really neat addition to our card. I would like to highlight the wrinkles in this. So I'm going to get my blending brush out, bring this cardstock back in. I've got some crumb cake cardstock, and I want to go over this gently and see if I can add some color to those wrinkles, to those raised areas. So as you can see, we're already getting a lot of texture and the look of layering right here, and this is only one piece of our card. So as I'm doing this, keep in mind, you may pick up one thing in this card tutorial you like, or you may find a whole lot of things. You can absolutely recreate this exact card if you want to, but hopefully as we go through, you can pick up at least one or two new tips and techniques that you can try out in your crafting. Okay, I think this piece is ready. So now what I want to do is start to assemble the card. I have a lot of my pieces ready. Here is the card base that I prepared. It's regular size 5.5 by 8.5. I folded it in half and punched the corners with that trio punch, the very best trio punch. Then I cut this piece of brushed metallic cardstock, 4 by 5.25. I die cut a piece out of the center, as you can see. This cardstock is so pretty. I didn't want to waste that much of it by covering it up with this piece right here. So what I did, I used this die, I cut this piece out. Now I can save this in my collection for another project. So let's go ahead and add this piece onto the card base. We will add this over top, and then we can start to look at those really amazing die cuts that I've prepared. I'm curious what your favorite adhesive is. I find that the adhesive I use for projects really varies by project. Sometimes it's my seal tape, sometimes it's my Tombow glue, sometimes it's something else, and I really don't have an explanation for when I prefer which one. Now, as you put adhesive on the back of this piece, you'll have to be very, very careful. I'm going to attempt to do this. You will not want to use a really strong adhesive like Seal Plus would not work with this. I can tell this is pulling up a little bit of those fibers of the paper just with my regular seal. And I'm sure the Seal Plus would do more of that because it's stronger. And I'm debating, I think I want to put this piece up here. So this, I'm doing my best to center it. I will get it close and push it down. Since it's not perfectly flat, it's not going to lay exactly where I want it to, but I think that looks pretty good. And I think that makes the perfect background for this card. Next, I have a couple of die cuts that I created with a die set called the Chic Dies. Goes with the Season of Chic stamp set I highlighted a while back. And this die right here is the one that I wanted to use. Here's one I have that I created already. I cut these out of vellum, and I left this like this so I could show you. When I die cut with vellum, I really like to lay it over top of a piece of cardstock because it cuts a lot better. And then when you remove the die cut from the cardstock, you get this really cool effect right here. Some of the pieces stay stuck and some of them don't. And I think this would make a really neat piece to use on a different project. So I have my two pieces of vellum here, and these are very detailed. So how are we going to attach those? Well, let's talk about one way. Sometimes I like to put adhesive sheets on the back of these detailed pieces before I cut them. But when I don't put adhesive sheets on the back before I cut them, I have a few other go-to ways to attach these pieces. So I'll show you what I'm intending to do here. I'm going to put these on about like this. The one on the top I can go ahead and attach, and the one on the bottom I want to do a little bit of planning as far as some pieces I'm going to insert through the openings in this. So here's what I am going to do in this particular case. Like I said, I have different go-to ways for how to attach adhesives, but if I use my seal on the back and then I kind of run my fingers around, that is going to help the extra adhesive go back behind the pieces of vellum. And the pieces, the glue that is sticking out on top, what's happening is it's balling up here. So I can just remove it and it won't cause any issues on my card. So I'll just roll those, it's balling up. You may not be able to see that. And so the pieces that are stuck there have the adhesive on the back, should adhere when I push down. Okay, now I do want to attach this second piece of vellum, but I also want to plan how I'm going to insert some of my die cuts through it. So I'll pull my 2 wheat die cuts back in and let's see how they are coming with the embossing paste on them. They are still drying just a little bit, but we can go ahead and plan this out. So I think what I'll do is lay this one on here, and then this one I want to insert through, I'll insert it through that larger hole right there. So I think I will just cut that a little bit wider. And I'll be able to insert this down and through. What I want to keep in mind is not to put any adhesive in this area so that I will be able to fit that down. So put a little bit of glue on the back of this. If you like to do detailed layered cards like this, you, I'm sure, are well aware that figuring out how to attach things, what order to attach them in, how to attach it so that it doesn't get in the way of another layer you're going to add is something you really have to think about. So that is what we are doing here. Let's go ahead and attach this piece the same way we did the other one. And I have to remember, so I don't want any adhesive down in this area. So I'll put some on here, a little bit up here. So once I've attached that, I'll just flip it over and do the same thing I did last time. Just run my fingers around, and now that I'm getting a little bit more familiar with this, I don't need to worry about being too gentle with it. It seems to be holding up nicely. So we'll lay this here, and I like to offset things sometimes. So I was debating how to lay that. Okay, now what I want to do, I will want to insert that through that hole, like I said. And I may actually, that was my plan, but I may put that down a little bit lower. Here is the wheat die cut that I plan to place on top. Cut a piece of ribbon that I want to tie around the shock. It has the little tie shown in the stamp, but this will be much more effective, much more realistic looking. Let's trim the edges of this, and then we just have a couple of pieces to attach. Okay. So I like to see how these things are coming together, and I think I may actually put this one in front. So I'll attach this one first with a few dimensionals, then I'll attach this other smaller piece of wheat. We'll have a tag to add on. And did I mention sometimes I forget things? They're all laying here. I need to lay them all out in order so that I can see exactly what I have. I want to attach a couple of these beautiful die cuts. This is part of this wheat die set. I do want to make sure I include these. I absolutely love the way they look. And I wanted to show you this. When I die cut these were the pieces I was left over with. So sometimes you can use your trash for really nice accents as well. So I'm planning on keeping those and using them for another project. We'll attach this. And I debated whether to put a second one on. We'll just leave it with that one. I'll remove the paper backing pieces from here. I want to put this up high enough that I have plenty of space for my greeting down at the bottom. We'll attach this and then we will add our greeting. So let me know what you think about this. Do you like to learn new techniques like this? Did you see anything new in this video? Is this way too complicated? Should I focus on simpler cards? Let me know what you like to see in my videos. So we'll attach that and then let's bring in this die. Here is a little idea. So when I was looking for the die cut I wanted to use for this greeting, I didn't find one that was exactly the size I wanted, but you can always do this. If one's too long or it's too tall, place it towards the one edge so it looks the way you like, and then you can actually cut the edge off. So I am going to place this here. Flip it over and trim that edge. So here we are, friends, our finished card. What do you think? Let me know. Let me know what you think about these techniques and these ideas and what you want to see in my future videos. Thanks so much, friends. If you're interested in any of these products, I'll have links in the video description below. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.